Beloved soul, before you read another sentence, pause here for a moment. Breathe in slowly and breathe out gently, because what you are about to read is not meant to be rushed. It is meant to be received. Out of countless messages, endless thoughts, and millions of moments unfolding right now, this one found you. And God says that when something finds you at the exact moment your heart is tired, confused, or searching, it is never an accident. Today, something sacred happened. Your name was mentioned in heaven, not spoken carelessly, not lost among many voices, not said without intention. It was spoken clearly. It was spoken lovingly. It was spoken with full awareness of everything you have been through. You may be thinking, why my name? You may feel unworthy, unnoticed, or unsure. You may feel like your life does not look important enough for heaven to notice. But God gently interrupts that thought and says, heaven does not look at what your life looks like. It looks at what your heart has endured. The world celebrates success, noise, and recognition. Heaven honors endurance, faithfulness, and quiet obedience. And today, heaven honored you. Your name was mentioned not because everything is perfect in your life, but because you kept going when it would have been easier to stop. You lived through days that tested your strength. You carried responsibilities that felt heavy and unfair. You showed up for others while feeling empty yourself. You smiled when your heart was hurting. You stayed kind when bitterness tried to take root. You trusted God even when His silence confused you. God saw all of it. He saw the nights you lay awake, replaying worries in your mind. He saw the mornings you woke up tired, but still chose to move forward. He saw the courage it took to continue when your soul felt exhausted. And heaven responded. Your name was mentioned because heaven recognized your perseverance. God says, I saw you on the days you didn't feel strong. I saw you when you questioned yourself. I saw you when you wondered if any of this mattered. You were never invisible, even when people forgot to check on you, even when your efforts went unnoticed, even when your pain was misunderstood. Heaven noticed. Heaven always notices the ones who keep choosing faith in the dark. Why this moment matters. There are moments in life when heaven leans closer, not to judge, not to punish, but to reassure. God knows when your heart reaches a point where it needs confirmation. He knows when discouragement starts whispering lies. He knows when doubt tries to convince you that waiting has been pointless. And before those lies could settle in deeply, heaven spoke your name. God says, this soul needs to remember who they are, not who the world says you are, not who circumstances suggest you are, but who heaven knows you to be. You are not weak. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are in a process, and heaven does not rush processes that produce purpose. The weight you have been carrying, you have been strong for a long time, stronger than people realize, stronger than you give yourself credit for. You carried emotional weight silently. You carried responsibility without complaint. You carried hope even when disappointment tried to crush it. And God says, I know how heavy it has been. Some days, it wasn't one big problem. It was many small ones piling up. Unanswered questions, delayed results, uncertain future. You felt pressure to keep going, even when you wanted rest. You felt the need to stay composed, even when you wanted to cry. You felt responsible for holding things together. Heaven saw the cost of that strength. And today, heaven spoke your name as a reminder. You are not carrying this alone. When you felt forgotten. There were moments when you felt overlooked, when others moved ahead and you stayed waiting, when people received recognition and you remained unseen. when your efforts seemed to lead nowhere. You questioned yourself. You questioned your timing. You even questioned God. But God says, I was never ignoring you. I was protecting you. Some delays were not setbacks. They were safeguards. Some doors stayed closed because walking through them too early would have hurt you. Some answers were slow because receiving them before your heart matured would have confused you. Heaven does not rush what is precious, and you are precious. That is why your name was mentioned, not in frustration, but in care. Heaven knows your real story. People may only see the surface of your life. They see what you allow them to see. They see your calm exterior. They see your ability to manage. But heaven sees deeper. Heaven sees the battles you never spoke about, the fears you never shared, the prayers you never finished out loud. God says, I know the parts of your story no one else knows. He knows how hard it was to forgive. He knows how much it hurt to let go. He knows how deeply you wanted clarity, and still, you trusted. That trust is what moved heaven today. What it means when heaven speaks a name. When heaven speaks a name, it is never casual. It means attention. It means intention. It means movement is being prepared. God says, I speak names when seasons are shifting. Not everything changes instantly. Not everything changes loudly. But something begins. A burden starts lifting. A new clarity starts forming. A door begins to loosen. You may not see it yet, but heaven has already acknowledged you, and that acknowledgement carries power. A gentle reminder from God. God speaks softly now. My child, you have not been waiting in vain. Every tear mattered. Every prayer mattered. Every step mattered. Today, your name was mentioned because I want you to know I am still with you. You are not at the end. You are not stuck. You are not forgotten. You are standing at a turning point. And heaven wanted you to know that before you lost hope. Beloved soul, after heaven spoke your name, it did not fall silent. Heaven never mentions a name without listening first. Long before today, long before this moment, long before you felt close to giving up, heaven had been listening to you. Not only to your spoken prayers, not only to your folded hands, but to the language of your heart. God says, some of the most powerful prayers are never spoken out loud. You did not always know what to say. Sometimes you had no words left. Sometimes all you could do was breathe and hold on. And heaven understood. The prayers you didn't realize you were praying. You thought prayer had to sound perfect. You thought it needed structure, faith-filled sentences, clear requests. But God says, I listened when you had nothing left to say, when you sat quietly, overwhelmed, staring at nothing. That was prayer. When you whispered, God, I'm tired, and felt tears rise without explanation. That was prayer. When your heart said, I don't understand this season, but I'll keep going. That was prayer. Heaven does not measure prayer by volume. It measures prayer by honesty. And your honesty reached heaven again and again. The nights that shaped your destiny. There were nights you went to bed heavy, not because one thing was wrong, but because everything felt uncertain. You replayed conversations. You worried about tomorrow. You questioned your decisions, and you wondered if God was listening. But God says, I was closest to you in the nights you felt most alone. Those nights refined you. They stripped away false confidence. They removed shallow faith. They taught you dependence. While you thought nothing was happening, heaven was shaping your spirit. God says, I do my deepest work in the quiet. That is why answers didn't always come immediately. Because God was not only changing circumstances, He was strengthening you. Why the answer took so long. You waited longer than you expected. You watched others move ahead. You saw doors open for people who seemed less prepared. You questioned your timing. And sometimes you asked God quietly, "Did I do something wrong?" God answers gently, "No, you were being prepared, not punished." Some blessings require maturity. Some breakthroughs require endurance. Some doors require wisdom before access. If God had answered too early, the blessing would have overwhelmed you. If He had moved too fast, it would have confused you. If He had changed things suddenly, it might have shaken your faith. So heaven waited with you, not ignoring you, not forgetting you, but protecting you. And today, heaven said, the waiting has done its work. When you kept going without feeling God. There were moments when God felt silent. You prayed and heard nothing. You believed but felt no confirmation. You trusted but saw no change. Those moments were the hardest. Because trusting God when He feels close is easy. Trusting God when He feels distant requires strength. God says, "I was silent, not absent." A teacher stays quiet during a test, not because they don't care, but because the student must discover what they've learned. Your faith was tested, your patience was stretched, your dependence grew deeper, and heaven watched closely. You did not turn bitter. You did not stop believing. You did not walk away. That is why your name was spoken with honor. The tears that were never wasted. You cried tears no one saw. Tears you wiped away quickly. Tears you hid behind smiles. Tears you felt ashamed of. But God says, "I count every tear." Not one tear fell unnoticed. Not one moment of pain was ignored. Some tears were releasing pain. Some were cleansing your heart. Some were watering seeds you didn't know were planted. Heaven understands what earth dismisses. And heaven said today, "This soul has cried enough. Now it is time to restore." Why you were made to wait in faith that is never tested remains shallow. God did not want shallow faith for you. He wanted rooted faith. Faith that survives disappointment. Faith that holds on in silence. Faith that trusts even without reassurance. God says, "I was teaching you to walk with me, not just receive from me." You learned patience. You learned humility. You learned to surrender control. Those lessons matter more than quick answers, because what God is preparing next requires strength, not urgency. The moment heaven decided to speak your name. Heaven did not speak your name randomly. There came a moment, quiet and unseen, when heaven said, "This one has reached the edge of discouragement." Not because you were weak, but because you had been strong for too long. Heaven knew your heart needed confirmation. So your name was spoken. Not to announce punishment, not to remind you of mistakes, but to reassure you. God says, "I spoke your name to remind you that you are not alone." What heaven is doing right now, even now, heaven is working quietly. Things are shifting behind the scenes. Conversations are happening without your knowledge. Doors are being aligned before they open. God says, "You don't see movement yet, but preparation is complete." What is coming will feel natural. It will not force you. It will not overwhelm you. It will arrive with peace. That peace will be your confirmation. A warning against doubt. As change approaches, doubt tries to return. It whispers, "What if nothing changes? What if this is just another delay? What if you get disappointed again?" God says, "Do not let doubt steal what faith has sustained." The season is shifting, not loudly, but surely. Hold steady. God's whisper to your heart. God speaks softly now. "My child, I heard you when your voice shook. I stayed when you felt alone. I waited until your heart was ready. Today, your name was mentioned because heaven agrees. You endured faithfully. Beloved soul, There are chapters of your life that were never spoken out loud, not because they were unimportant, but because they were too heavy to explain. You carried battles in your mind. You fought storms in your heart. You questioned your strength in silence. And while people saw only your calm exterior, heaven saw the war inside you. God says, I saw every battle you never told anyone about. The war no one knew you were fighting. You were not lazy. You were exhausted. You were not unmotivated. You were overwhelmed. You were not weak. You were carrying too much alone. Some days, the hardest battle was simply getting through the day, not because life was dramatic, but because it was heavy. Responsibilities pressed on you. Expectations surrounded you. Uncertainty followed you everywhere. You smiled when your heart wanted to collapse. You reassured others while needing reassurance yourself. You kept promises while feeling empty. God says, I saw the strength it took just to stay standing, and heaven did not overlook that strength. When your mind became the battlefield, there were moments when your thoughts turned against you. Thoughts that questioned your worth. Thoughts that replayed past mistakes. Thoughts that whispered fear about the future. You wondered if you were enough, if you were late in life, if you had missed your chance. But God says, those thoughts were not truth, they were pressure. Pressure from comparison, pressure from expectation, pressure from waiting too long. And still, you did not let those thoughts define you. You fought back with faith, even when it felt fragile. You chose hope, even when doubt felt louder. That is why heaven spoke your name. When you could have reacted, but you didn't. There were moments when you were misunderstood. People judged your silence. They assumed your calm meant agreement. They thought your patience meant weakness. You could have defended yourself. You could have argued. You could have proven your point. But you chose restraint, not because you were afraid, but because you trusted God. God says, I saw you choose peace over pride. You stayed quiet when speaking would have made things worse. You walked away when staying would have cost your dignity. You trusted me to handle what you couldn't fix. Heaven honors that kind of wisdom. When people walked away, some people left your life without explanation, not because you failed, but because you were growing. They could not understand your silence. They could not follow your pace. They could not handle your depth. Their departure hurt you deeply. You questioned yourself. You replayed conversations. You wondered if you were the problem. But God says, I removed what could not grow with you. Some connections were seasonal. Some relationships were lessons. Some attachments were weights. Heaven protected you by letting them go. And your name was mentioned because you did not chase what left. When doors closed and you blamed yourself, you remember the doors that shut unexpectedly, opportunities that seemed perfect but vanished, plans you invested in that collapsed, dreams that felt delayed beyond reason. You blamed yourself. You wondered what you did wrong. But God says, you were not rejected. You were redirected. Some doors closed because they were too small. Some paths ended because they would have drained you. Some dreams died because they needed to be reborn differently. Heaven does not waste your effort. Every step you took mattered. When you felt undefended, there were moments when you felt exposed, accused without a chance to explain, misunderstood without support, judged without context. You waited for someone to speak up for you, and no one did. But God says, I was defending you in ways you could not see. I protected your reputation when silence felt unfair. I guarded your heart when pain felt personal. I redirected conversations behind the scenes. Heaven does not always defend publicly. but it always defends faithfully. And today, heaven spoke your name as proof. The strength you didn't know you had. You surprised yourself. You survived things you thought would break you. You endured losses you never imagined carrying. You kept moving even when your strength felt gone. God says, "You are stronger than you think because I strengthened you." Every time you chose not to quit, every time you trusted me one more day, every time you believed in hope again, heaven took note. Your name was mentioned because you survived without losing your soul. When you felt delayed, but were protected, you thought you were behind in life. You watched others move forward. You compared your progress. You questioned your timing. But God says, "I slowed you down to protect you." Rushing would have hurt you. Moving too fast would have overwhelmed you. Reaching certain places too early would have cost you peace. Heaven values your well-being more than your speed. And today, heaven acknowledged your patience. What it means that heaven defended you. When heaven defends you, you don't need to explain yourself. God says, "I will justify you in my time." People will eventually see what they misunderstood. Truth will surface without your effort. Clarity will come naturally. You are not required to fight every battle. Some battles belong to heaven. A shift you may start to feel. You may start noticing changes inside you. Less fear, more calm, greater clarity. That is heaven's reassurance settling in. Your spirit recognizes when heaven has spoken, and that peace is not temporary. God's personal word to you. God speaks now with tenderness. "My child, I saw every unseen battle. I defended you when you felt exposed. I strengthened you when you felt weak. Today, your name was mentioned because heaven acknowledges you fought with faith." Beloved soul, when heaven speaks a name, it never does so without intention. Heaven does not announce names for attention. It speaks names to initiate change. Today, your name was not only mentioned, it was acknowledged, remembered, and activated. And now, something begins to shift. Quietly, deliberately, faithfully. God says, "What I am doing next will not need force. It will unfold with purpose." What changes after heaven speaks? Change does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes as peace replacing anxiety. Sometimes it comes as clarity replacing confusion. Sometimes it comes as strength where exhaustion once lived. You may wake up and realize you are no longer as heavy as before. The same problems may exist, but they no longer control your emotions. That is heaven's confirmation. God says, "I change you first, then I change what surrounds you." Because inner alignment must come before external breakthrough. The shift you will start to feel inside. You may notice your reactions changing. What once triggered fear will now meet calm. What once tempted you to panic will now meet patience. What once made you doubt yourself will now meet quiet confidence. This is not coincidence. This is heaven stabilizing your spirit. God says, "I am anchoring you so that what comes next does not overwhelm you." You are being prepared to receive, not just survive. Why everything didn't change overnight? You may wonder why everything didn't suddenly fix itself. Why challenges didn't disappear instantly. Why people didn't immediately change. Why circumstances didn't reverse overnight. God explains gently, "I am not rushing what must last." Instant change impresses people. Gradual change strengthens hearts. Heaven is building sustainability into your life. What is coming is not meant to excite you temporarily. It is meant to support you permanently. The doors that will open naturally. You will not have to beg for what heaven releases. The doors meant for you will open without pressure. Opportunities will come with peace, not anxiety. Connections will feel aligned, not forced. God says, what belongs to you will recognize you. You will not have to chase. You will not have to prove. You will not have to explain. Heaven's timing removes struggle. For those who misunderstood you. Some people misunderstood your silence. They thought you lacked ambition. They thought you were passive. They thought you had nothing to offer. But God says, they misunderstood your season, not your potential. Your waiting was not weakness. Your restraint was not fear. Your quietness was not lack. It was wisdom, and heaven honored that wisdom. God says, I will speak for you where you stayed silent. You do not need to correct perceptions. Truth will reveal itself naturally. Why you no longer need to explain yourself. There was a time you felt the need to justify your decisions, to explain why you waited, to explain why you chose peace, to explain why you walked away. That season is ending. God says, when heaven validates you, explanations become unnecessary. Your life will speak louder than words ever could. The fear that may try to return. As breakthrough approaches, fear may try one last time. It may whisper, what if you fail again? What if this hope disappoints you? What if nothing changes? God responds firmly. Fear speaks when it is losing control. Do not confuse fear with warning. This fear is not intuition. It is resistance. Resistance always appears when transition is near. Stay steady. What heaven is releasing now. Heaven is releasing peace that does not depend on circumstances, confidence that does not rely on validation, direction that does not require urgency. God says, I am aligning your steps. You may not see the full picture yet, but you will sense the alignment, and that alignment will guide you safely forward. Why this season will feel different. This season will feel different because you are different. You have grown. You have matured. You have learned. You are no longer desperate for answers. You are no longer chasing approval. You are no longer controlled by fear. God says, I do not repeat seasons. I elevate them. What you enter next will not look like what you left behind. A promise for the days ahead. God speaks gently now. My child, you will look back on this waiting season and understand why it had to happen this way. You will see that nothing was wasted, and you will thank me, not for the pain, but for the protection it provided. What felt like delay will reveal itself as direction. What felt like loss will reveal itself as preparation. When blessings arrive quietly, do not overlook small beginnings. Not every blessing arrives dramatically. Some arrive as stability. Some arrive as consistency. Some arrive as peace. God says, small blessings sustained over time become great transformations. Trust the process. Your identity in this new season. You are no longer who you were when this journey began. You are wiser. You are stronger. You are more grounded. God says, I refined you so you could carry what is coming. And because of that refinement, you will not mishandle what heaven releases. What you no longer need to carry. Release the guilt of not doing enough. Release the pressure to prove yourself. Release the fear of being left behind. God says, that weight no longer belongs to you. You carried it long enough. Heaven's final confirmation. Heaven does not speak names without follow-through. What was spoken today will echo into your future. God says, I mentioned your name because I am involved. Involved in your decisions. Involved in your direction. Involved in your destiny. You are not navigating life alone anymore. God's final word to you. God speaks softly, but clearly. My child, I know where you have been. I know what you survived. I know what you feared, and I know where I am taking you. Today, your name was mentioned not to remind you of the past, but to prepare you for the future. Final closing. Hold this truth. Beloved soul, carry this truth with you. Your waiting was meaningful. Your pain was not ignored. Your faith was never misplaced. And today, your name was mentioned in heaven, not to bring fear, not to bring pressure, but to bring assurance. Heaven has seen you. Heaven has defended you. Heaven is guiding you forward. And what comes next will reflect the strength you built in silence. Amen.